So now welcome back to the accounting class. So you know that now you are online. So the the recording that we have done, and then you will be watching it online. So if you have any concerns or if you have any areas that you need more clarifications on, right? What you can do is you can just mark it, and when we resume back in the normal lectures, and the normal way that when we start back doing lectures, you can come and clarify it with us. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to continue the lecture in the normal way, right? I'll be starting with where we have stopped, right? I just give you a brief introduction as to how things have happened, and just to give an update as to what we have done in the past. So you can look at those, and then you can have an idea of how to look at this video. So if you have any concerns with regard to the loading of videos or anything, just please contact the IAS management. They will be able to help you out throughout. And also one more thing, that I'm planning to give you a new tute today, right? There will be an additional tute which you will be able to you will be receiving through an email. So please once you get that email, that new tute, just keep it with you. The hard copies will be available for you as and when we start the resume the classes in the normal way. Right. So we'll see what we have done up to now. So we have discussed the financial accounting, and then we discussed about the basic principles in accounting and the asset recognition, liability recognition, and then we discussed about the accounting formula. So just to touch upon the accounting formula what we have discussed. So what we discussed was assets equals equity plus liabilities, the basic accounting formula, if you can remember, right? So simply we derived it from assets of a business equals to the liabilities of a business. Then these liabilities will be of two types. One is the liabilities to the owners, and the other one is liabilities to the external parties. So liabilities towards the owners, we call it as equity, or anything with the business owes to the owner, we call it as equity. And anything business owes to external parties, we refer to it as liabilities in accounting terms. So this is what the accounting formula that we have been discussing. And then we expanded the accounting formula by introducing the two elements, that is income and expenses. Right? So when you incorporate the income and expenses also into this accounting formula, so we all know that usually income minus expenses would be profit. Income minus expenses would be profit, or sometimes if the expenses are more than the income, then it would be a loss. So here what we are looking at is profit is part of the owner's return, right? Profit of a business means something which is to be, or which is considered as a return to the owners. So return to the owners is part of the equity. So here simply, in that case, assets equals equity plus liabilities. So when we derive it further, assets equals equity will have two components, that is the opening equity and the profit during the year, right? When we say total equity of a business, total equity means the equity that was there in the beginning of the year, So that means opening balance of equity, and then we add the profit for the year. Right? So here, opening balance of equity, then profit for the year. So we will be taking these two into consideration, and we'll be adding that to or replacing equity with these two factors. So here, assets equals opening balance of equity plus liabilities. So opening balance of equity plus profit plus liabilities. So assets equals opening balance of equity plus profit means income minus expenses. So that means income minus expenses plus liabilities. So this one replaced with income minus expenses. And then you know that assets equals opening balance of equity plus income minus expenses plus liabilities. So if we further take this into consideration, this is the basic mathematics. Assets plus, so you take these expenses into this side. Here it's not equity, keep in mind here it's expenses, right? So for the ease, I will put it as EX, so otherwise you will get confused, right? So expenses, assets plus expenses equals opening balance of equity plus income plus liabilities, right? This is, and then assets plus expenses. So opening balance of equity and income together, we can refer to it as the total equity. Total equity. So we take the total equity plus liability. So this is the accounting formula. Accounting formula. When we take it into consideration, the income and expenses. Income and expenses. Or else we can say opening balance of equity plus income plus liabilities. So that's how we derive the extended version of the accounting formula. So the basic version of the accounting formula is assets equals equity plus liabilities, which we extended up to assets plus expenses equals to opening balance of equity plus income plus liabilities. Income plus liability. Right? So this is the extended formula that we have derived. And then we discussed, after this accounting formula, we discussed about the double entry principle, right? We discussed when it comes to accounting, we know that there is accounting formula. That means whatever at any given point, at any situation, the total assets plus expenses of that company should be equal to the opening balance of equity plus income plus liabilities. That is what the formula says. So considering that, we have derived on the double entry principle. Double entry principle, that is the basic principle in accounting, which is derived by Luca Pacioli, some in 1900s. Right, so the beginning of the accounting, those days. This double entry principle says every item that has a debit should have an credit amount or credit entry that is equal to the amount. Let's say if we are putting some debit entry amount in 1 million, then the credit also should be for a value of 1 million. So this 1 million can be with different entries, but still it has to tally with 1 million. That is what the double entry principle was, what we discussed in the last lecture. And then we discussed into the increase and decrease of each items of financial statement or the elements of financial statement. So we'll see. So the elements of financial statement, just to remind you all, that is we had let's say we'll start with that formula. We have assets, then we have expenses, then we have equity, then we have income, then we have liabilities. Those are the items that we are looking at. So then there are two. Now, with every transaction that is happening in a company or a business, right, whatever you do, right, in business, there will be an accounting impact. So when you have an accounting impact in the business, that accounting impact will have an impact to any of these or two of these simply areas, right? So either it could increase or either it could decrease a component. Now what they say is, when it comes to the double entry principle, right, in line with the double entry principle, if there is an increase in an asset, we consider the asset account to be debit. If there is a if there is an increase in the expenses, we consider the expense account to be debit. DR means debit, CR means credit. If there is an increase in the equity, we consider that to be a credit entry into the equity account. So at the same time, if there is an increase in the income, we consider it to be a credit entry to the income account. If there is an increase to the liabilities, we consider it to be a credit entry. So now we'll see how the reductions are to be accounted based on the double entry principle. That is, if there is a decrease in an asset, we consider it to be a credit impact to the respective asset account. If there is a decrease in the expenses, we consider it to have a credit impact to the expenditure account. If there is a decrease in the equity, we consider it to have a debit impact to the equity account. If there is a decrease in the income, we consider it to have a debit impact to the income account. If there is a decrease in the liability, we consider it as to be a debit impact to the liability account. So you can see now, if you put a line like this, the side assets and expenses will be operating, or the double entry for the assets and expenses would be similar nature. That is, if there is an increase, it will be a debit. If there is a decrease, it will be a credit. At the same time, equity, liabilities, and income will operate in the same way. That is, if there is an increase in equity, credit. If there is a decrease in equity, debit. If there is an increase, credit. If there is a decrease, debit. So likewise, you can see now, this can be attributed to the accounting formula as well. That is, assets and equity side increases will result in debit entries. Equity, income, and liabilities side increases will account to credit. So whatever, now the double entry principle say, when you have an increase in an asset, that means the asset account has to be debited. At the same time, what they say is, as per the double entry principle, there must be a credit entry corresponding to that debit entry. If there is a debit entry for a respective account, a corresponding credit entry has to be there, must be there. And that credit entry must tally to the amounts that you are debiting. Right? So that is what we have been discussing up to now, just to give you a refresh on what we have been discussing. And then we discussed this example, question number 2 and 3. And then we discussed about the types of accounts. And then theory of bookkeeping as a double entry system. And then question 4. I will start with the question 4 because we stopped with the question 4 on the last lecture. Right? So question 4 is fill in the blanks by considering the transaction. So first one, cash invested by the owner. The double entries you can see, cash in hand gets debited, capital gets credited. That means owner is investing more cash into the company. Owner investing more cash into the company means the company side, if it's a business, when we are considering the business point of view, the business assets get increased. Right? So cash in hand is an asset to the business. So if there is an increase in the asset, it has to be debited. That is why you can see first entry, cash in hand, debit. Same way, now the debit, every debit entry should have a corresponding credit entry. So what is the credit entry for this one? So here you can see cash invested by the owner means owner is introducing more equity to the business or more capital to the business. That means capital account will get credited. So capital account will be increased. So whatever the owner has invested in the past, he is going to increase that amount. So when he is increasing that amount, that means capital is a part of an equity. Capital is part of the equity. So increase in equity means It's a credit entry. Credit entry. So same you can see, increase in asset debit, increase in equity credit. That is why here the double entry is cash in hand debit and the capital account credit. Likewise, second example also, purchase of furniture by paying cash. So we are going to purchase furniture by paying cash. Business point. So when you look at the transactions, when you do accounting, you have to think about it from the business point of view. Right? On the first day itself, we discussed business is a separate entity from the owner. If it's a limited liability company, we have this separate principle. So for accounting, we will be using that principle. That is, always we consider business as a separate one and owner is separate. So here, purchasing furniture to the business means business, what happens? So business ownership of the furniture to the business will increase. That is, they might have about 1 million worth of furniture. If they purchase another 10,000 worth of furniture, that means their furniture is going to be increased. Whatever the furniture that they have. So that means furniture is what? What type of account? When you categorize into these 5 types, furniture has to be what type? It's an asset account. It's an asset account. Because you know that it's an asset account. So when it comes to asset account increase, it's a debit entry. So that's why the second one, you can see furniture account debit and by paying cash. Now here what happens is, the business has purchased this furniture by paying out the cash which it owns. So the cash amount owned by the business we consider as what? We consider as what? It's again a part of the business assets. Again a part of the business assets. Right? So what will happen is, so when there is an increase in the asset, furniture side it will increase. At the same time, when you pay out the cash to someone, that means your cash in hand, that is again an asset, will reduce. So reduction in an asset will be credit. So you can see, now based on this example, there is a double entry simply to the asset side. Increase in an asset, at the same time there is a decrease in an asset. So that is why the double entry for this one is furniture account debit, that is increase in furniture, cash in hand credit, reduction in the cash in hand balance, that is the cash in hand credit. Paying telephone bill, this is assumed to be paid in cash. So here, telephone expenses. So telephone bill means annual expenditure that the company has to incur, or monthly expenditure that the company has to incur. So the expenditure account debit, increase in expenditure, and then credit entry goes to the cash because we are paying in cash, and cash is an asset to the company, asset will be reduced. So reduction in asset is a credit impact, has a credit impact. So that's why telephone expenses, debit, and cash in hand, credit. Fourth one, purchase of goods on cash. Now what do you mean by that? Now purchases means what? Purchases means, is it an increase in asset, or is it an increase in expenditure, or is it an increase in liabilities or any other thing? Purchases means again an expenditure. So purchase of goods on cash means again expenditure increase and a reduction of what? Cash in hand. Cash in hand means a reduction of an asset owned by the company. So increase in expenditure means debit, reduction of an asset means credit. So that means purchase account debit, cash in hand account credit. Purchase account debit and cash in hand account credit. Next one, fifth one, purchase of goods on credit. What do you mean by purchase of goods on credit? That means the company has purchased the goods but they have not paid the cash amount. So you know that when it comes to businesses, when you do business, usually you don't do all the transactions in cash. You don't do all the transactions in cash. Instead, what will happen is, when you do transactions, generally it will be on credit basis. Credit basis means you purchase the goods now and you agree to pay it on a later date. Credit sales is also there. That is, you sell it to certain customers and then you expect to recover it after certain time. That is credit sales. So here what has happened is purchase of goods on credit. So that means here purchase account debit expenditure. That's fine. So if you purchase on credit means you are agreeing to pay something to a third party at a later date. That means now you are entering into an agreement with a third party. Okay, I am going to purchase this. Let's say I am going to purchase this pen. I am saying I am going to purchase this pen and I will pay you this, let's say 100 rupees. I am going to pay this 100 rupees to you on, let's say after next month, after 2 months. That means if I am the business, for me I have made the purchase. Purchase I have made, right? So if it's sometimes what happens is purchasers, some entities, they directly record in their inventory account. Some entities, they directly record it as a purchase expenditure. So both options are available depending on the type of the accounting system that they have, right? So if it is inventory, it will be considered. Now here, if I am going to purchase these pens, it will be part of my assets as soon as I purchase it. So it's part of the inventory as well, right? At the same time, I could consider it as an expenditure as well. So depends on the nature of the business. So purchase account, debit, if it's an asset or expenditure, it will have same impact. So the debit entry will go because increase in an expenditure or increase in an asset will be debited. So purchase account debit. But here, have we paid it in cash? No, we have not paid in cash. So if we have not paid in cash, what has happened? I have agreed to pay it after 1 month. That means I have entered into a contract. I have an obligation to another party. So if I have an obligation to another party, obligation means what? I have a liability towards another party. So towards a third party, I have a liability. So what will happen is, liabilities. Now what happens? Will it be increased or decreased? Increased, because I am agreeing with a third party that I will pay this money after 1 month. So my liability is going to be increased. That is going to be a credit entry. So you can see double entry principle. Debit the asset or the expenditure account, credit the liability account. So double entry here would be purchase goods on credit, purchase account debit, trade creditors credit, trade creditors credit. Now sixth one, the other way around. Similarly, sale of goods on credit. Now when we are entering into a sales contract with someone, either I can do the sales on cash basis, or sometimes I can do it on credit basis. Now here, credit sales. Credit sales means what? If I am selling the goods, it will be what? To me, it will be an income. It will be an income. Sales means, for me, it's an income. So income is increased or decreased? Income is increased. So if there is an increase in the income, the entry should be what? It's a credit entry, credit entry. At the same time, credit sales means a customer is agreeing to settle me something after some time. Customer is agreeing to settle me the amount after some time. That means I have what? I have the right to receive that. Right to receive it at a later date. Right to receive it at a later date. So right to receive it at a later date means, as far as the business is concerned, it is what? It's an asset to the business. It's an asset to the business. So income increase, credit. At the same time, asset increase, debit. So here you can see sale of goods on credit, sales account credit, and the debit entry will be for the trade receivables account. Trade receivables account. Now one more thing I want to highlight to you is that always when you are writing the double entry, right, make sure that is, there is a general understanding, a common principle that you write the debit entry first. Debit entry first. And then you write the credit entry. Also, there is one more principle, that is, when you write the journal entry, let's say now here the entry that we are looking at is sales account credit, trade receivables debit. So first we need to write the debit entry. So we are writing trade receivables account debit. And second, we are going to write the credit entry. So general understanding of the journalization is that we do not write the credit entry on the same alignment. Instead, we write it some little bit onto the right side. Here the sales account is going to be credited. Right? Trade receivables debit, sales account credit. This is how we generally write the double entries in a normal scenario. First we write the debit entry, then we write the credit entry, and also the account that we are going to have the impact on the debit side, we are going to write it, but not credit side, we are going to write it, but not on the same alignment as per the debit entry. Right? So this is how we generally write this. Now, someone might argue that you don't need to know about these things because nowadays we don't do manual bookkeeping. All the double entries are passed in the system. Yes, true enough, because most of the companies now you are adopting the accounting systems, and then the businesses are run on accounting. But here we are looking at the basic principles, because we need to know the basic principles before we go into the advanced accounting. So in the basic principles, we are going to cover what is required in accounting from the theoretical side. Practically, this might not happen. Practically, the entries might be on the same line, so it doesn't matter. But generally, the understanding or the principle is that when you write the journal entries, if it is manual bookkeeping, you do it like this. Why these principles have been derived? Because earlier, those days, companies used to manually write those journal entries. It's not that they used to use the accounting systems. Those days, they used to write those entries. So those principles have been derived based on the outcome of the entities that they have been, practices that they have been adopting. Right? So now the practices might have changed, but these are the basic principles that you should know. So keep in mind, first you write the debit entry, next you write the credit entry. Debit entry is on the aligned to the left, and then aligned to the left, and then the sales entry or the credit entry is not going to be on the same alignment. It's going to be a little bit further onto the right side. Right. So going back to the point number 7, settling of the creditors. Settling of creditors. What do you mean by settling of creditors? Now, in the example number 5 we discussed, we are going to purchase some goods, agreeing to settle this balance somewhere later. Somewhere later. So, this later date, what we are doing is settling the creditors. That is what we call as settling the creditors. What we have done is, on a previous date, we have agreed that we will pay you this much, and now we are going to settle that amount. So, what is the double entry? What is the double entry for that? So now let's assume that this settling of creditors has happened through cash. So here within brackets you can say settling of creditors within brackets in cash. In cash. So we'll assume it's in cash. So if we have settled the creditors in cash, what is the double entry? So first we need to find the debit entry. So what is the debit entry? So debit entry can happen any of these ways. Either debit entry could happen because of an increase of an asset, either because of an increase of an expenditure, either because of a decrease of an equity, either because of a decrease in an income, either because of a decrease in a liability. Now, settling of creditors means, when you look at the debit entry, out of these 5 elements, what is the debit entry that is attributed to? Is it an increase in asset? By settling the creditors, are we going to increase our asset base? No, I don't think so. Is it an expenditure that we are settling? Settling the creditors? No. Because what happens is, expenditure we have recorded in the previous days. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to settle what we have agreed. At the time of agreeing with the party, we are going to record that expenditure. So at that time, we have debited the expenditure and we have credited the payable account. Now what we are going to do is, what we are going to settle is the amount that we have agreed to pay in the past. So if we are going to record it again as an expenditure, it will be duplicated. The same expenditure will be accounted twice. So that is not what we are going to do. We are going to settle the creditors. So in that case, again, we rule out the expenditure side. Then, by settling the creditors, will there be a reduction in the equity? Reduction in the equity? Not really. How can there be a reduction in equity? There can be a reduction in equity either by way of increasing expenditure, either by way of paying dividends or drawings by the owner. Other than that, there is no way of reducing the equity. So by settling the creditors, I don't think there is no reduction in equity. Next one, is there a reduction in income? Not really, isn't it? Because income side, there's no impact because of settlement of creditors. Then liability. Is there a reduction in the liability? Yes, there is a reduction in the liability. Why? Because when it comes to the creditors, that is something that we have agreed in the past. At the time of agreeing with a party that I am going to settle this in future, that means I am going to have a liability. At that point, I have recognized the liability. Now what I am going to do is, I am going to settle that liability. I am going to settle that liability. අපි හිතමු මෙහෙම situation. අපි ගිය මාසේ මම ඇග්‍රි වෙනවා මම මේ පෑන අරගෙන රුපියල් 100කට අරගෙන ඒ ගත්ත කඩේට මම කියනවා මම ඔයාට මේ රුපියල් 100 ලබන මාසේ ගෙවන්නම් කියලා. මාර්තු මාසේ නම් පෑන ගත්තේ මම මාර්තු මාසේ කියනවා මම ඔයාට මේ රුපියල් 100 අප්‍රේල් මාසේ ගෙවන්නම් කියලා. එතකොට මගේ මාර්තු මාසේ accounting treatment එක ගත්තොත් මාර්තු මාසේ වෙද්දි මට liability එකක් තියෙනවා කඩේට මේ රුපියල් 100 ගෙවන්න. දැන් අපි කරන්නේ දැන් අපි ඉන්නේ අප්‍රේල් වල. අප්‍රේල් වලදී අපි කරන්නේ මේ රුපියල් 100 අපි කලින් මාසේ ගෙවනවා කියලා ඇග්‍රි වෙච්ච රුපියල් 100 අපි කලින් මාසේ රුපියල් ගෙවනවා කියලා සහතික වෙච්ච රුපියල් 100 අපි දැන් ගෙවනවා. කොහොමද ගෙවන්නේ? කෑෂ් වලින් තමයි ගෙවන්නේ. එතකොට වෙන්නේ අපි මාර්තු මාසේ රෙකග්නයිස් කරපු ලයබිලිටි එක අපි ඒ මාසේ රෙකග්නයිස් කරපු ලයබිලිටි එක දැන් මේ මාසෙදි අඩු වෙනවා. මොකද අපි ගෙව්වා. අපි අර රුපියල් 100 ගෙව්වා. එතකොට අපිට අප්‍රේල් මාසේ අන්තිම වෙද්දි තව දුරටත් ලයබිලිටි එකක් නැහැ. තව දුරටත් ගෙවන්න අගීමක් නැහැ. මොකද අපි ගෙවලා ඉවරයි. That is what happens. So when we settle the creditors, the debit entry means reduction of a liability. Deduction of a liability, debit entry, and credit entry, obviously we know that we are paying in cash. So our asset is, cash in hand is our asset. So cash is going to be reduced. So reduction in asset is a credit entry. So debit entry would be trade creditors, debit, credit, cash in hand. So the double entry, if we write it, we have to write it like this. We'll be writing it like this. Trade creditors, debit, trade creditors, debit, cash in hand, credit. Cash in hand, credit. Trade creditors, debit, cash in hand, credit. So if you put up a timeline, this is what happens. Let's say in the first month, we are agreeing, we are purchasing certain goods. We are purchasing certain goods for a value of 1,000 rupees. But when we purchase the goods, we are not going to settle this. Instead, this will be on a credit basis. Credit basis, and the credit period is 30 days. Credit period of 30 days means we are agreeing to settle this 1,000 rupees after 30 days. So the month 1, what will be our double entry? Here what we are going to do is purchase account debit. We are purchasing, sir. And then we are going to credit the trade creditors account. So purchase account debit by 1,000 rupees and trade creditors account credit by 1,000 rupees. Then we are looking at the second month, month 2. We had a credit period of 30 days. So 30 days have passed. Now what I need to do is I need to settle this liability. So settlement of liability, this original trade creditors amount that we recognize in the month 1, we are going to settle it. That is we are going to settle it trade creditors debit 1,000. Here we are paying through cash. Cash in and credit 1,000 rupees. So this is settlement liability. Settlement of the liability. So original entry is purchase account debit and trade creditors credit. And then by the time when we settle the money, this credited amount, we are going to debit the trade credit account, and then we are going to credit the cash in hand account. Right? So this is how the double entry is going to be posted. So point number 7, settling of the creditors, trade creditors debit and cash in hand credit. 8, item number 8, receipt of cash from debtors. What do you mean by debtors? Debtors means we have made sales to a customer who is going to settle the balance in a later date. Debtor means a customer who is going to settle the balance in a later date. Customer who is going to settle the balance in a later date, we call him as a debtor. So now what has happened is, a debtor is going to settle the money to us. Receipt of cash from debtor. So first we have to see what is the double entry. What is the debit entry actually? So what is the debit entry? Is there an increase in our asset? So if debit entry could happen only because of increase in an asset or increase in an expenditure or decrease in an equity or decrease in an income or decrease in a liability. First we will be analyzing, because of this transaction, is there an increase to our asset? Yes. What is it? We will be receiving cash. So if we receive in cash, then what happens? Then we have to record that transaction. Debit the cash in hand account. Debit the cash in hand account. Now we know what the debit entry is. Next we need to see whether there is a credit entry, that is, what is the credit entry that is required to be passed. So what is the credit entry? How can a credit entry happen? Credit entry could happen because of a decrease in an asset, decrease in an expenditure, increase in an equity, increase in an income, or increase in a liability. So if you look at this receipt from debtors, is it going to reduce one of our assets? We know that one of our assets got increased. That's fine. Is it going to reduce one of our assets? Yes. What is it? Trade receivables. Trade receivables is one of our assets. That is, at the time when we are selling to the customers on credit basis, we are recognizing an asset saying that, okay, we will receive this money in a future date. අපි ක්‍රෙඩිට් සේල් එක කරන වෙලාවේදී අපි රෙකෝඩ් කරගන්නවා අපිට මෙයාගේ මේ මුදල ඉස්සරහදී ලැබෙනවා කියලා. ඒක අපිට ඇසෙට් එකක්. අපිට මේ ඉස්සරහදී ලැබෙන්න තියෙන මුදල අපිට ඇසෙට් එකක්. අපේ තියෙන වත්කම. දැන් වෙන්නේ අපිට එයාගෙන් සල්ලි ලැබෙනවා. එයාගෙන් සල්ලි ලැබෙනවා කියන්නේ අපේ තියෙන වත්කමක් අඩු වෙනවා. So our asset is going to be reduced. So at the same time, one of our other asset is going to increase, that is cash. So here what's happening is the double entry would be in that case cash in hand debit, that is a receipt of the cash, and then trade receivables credit. The asset that we were supposed to receive in future, it's going to be reduced. So the double entry, debit entry is cash in hand, credit entry is trade receivable. Next we look at number 9, bad debts. What is meant by bad debts? Bad debts means something like this. Now let's say we are selling to certain customers. Right? Now, when a business is run, we don't do all the sales on cash basis. Right? Sometimes we do it on credit basis. Sales are done on credit basis. That is, we assume that we will recover this money in a later date. Receivables on a later date. So we credit the sales account and then we debit the receivable account. We debit the receivable account. That is the double. Then what happens is, after some time, we get to know that the customer who was supposed to pay me has gone bankrupt. Or something like the customer who was supposed to pay me is no longer able to settle this money. Is no longer able to settle the money. So if that customer is no longer able to settle that money, we cannot recognize or we cannot keep that receivable amount in the financial statement. So those receivables which we identify on a subsequent date that this receivable is not going to be actually recovered, we call them as bad debts. Bad debts. The debtors which have gone bad. If it's a debtor who is going to be performing, then we will be receiving in a normal date. But here what we are looking at is the debtors which have gone bad. So bad debts means what? Bad debts means something that we will not be receiving in future. So when there is a bad debt, we need to account for it. How are we going to account for it? Bad debt means one of our assets is going to be reduced. So asset is going to be reduced means it's a credit entry. Now we need to see where is the double entry, the debit entry. Debit entry is what? So if we were supposed to receive it in future, now what happens? Let's look at the double entry here. Let's see how it happens. Let's look at the timeline so it will be easy for you to explain. Now let's assume here sales. The company is going to do a credit sale of 100,000 to Mr. A. customer's name is Mr. A, right? As per the normal credit policy, the company has made a sale to Mr. A, and then it says Mr. A is supposed to settle this, let's say within 60 days. 60 days. Credit sale is you're making the sale, but you don't receive the cash at the time of the sale. Instead, you are instructing your customer that you can settle it at the end of 60 days. So that means this amount is supposed to be settled on the third month. 60 days, third month. Now what happens here? So first we look at the double entry what we are going to pass here. So we are making a sale. Sale means, increase in the sales means what? It's an increase in one of our income sources. So at the same time, we don't receive cash. Instead, we will be increasing our debtors. So the debit entry will be trade receivable. Now here this is from customer A, so we are specifying debtor A. Debit 100,000. Receivable from Mr. A 100,000. Sales credit 100,000. So with this you can see our assets have increased. At the same time our income has increased. Assets and income has increased. Now we are supposed to receive it by the third month, month 3. Right? Now let's say before heading on to the third month, on the second month, we have identified, right? We have identified that this Mr. A is facing some financial difficulties, or either his business, so he has gone bankrupt, or let's say this coronavirus incident came in, he has not got the salary, so he's been laid off from his jobs, so he's not having a financial capacity to settle this money. Then what happens? Then what happens is, then we are saying, okay, that we know that we will not be able to recover this money. So by month 2, the company knows that this debtor A, they cannot recover, or trade receivable A, they cannot recover. So then what should they do? Is it worthwhile for them to carry an asset which is not going to be recovered in future? No. What the definition of the asset means? Definition of an asset. If you go to the tute number 1, say the page number, page number 23 of the first tute. You can just turn around the page number 23 of the first tute. You can see the definition for asset. An asset is a resource controlled by the entity as a result of a past event and from which future economic benefits are expected to flow to the entity. So when we discussed the definition of the assets, we discussed it should have been created because of a past event, and it should be a resource that is controlled by the entity. And then third one, future economic benefits should be receivable, or company or the entity should be receiving future economic benefits from that particular asset. So if you go back to this first month, when we are recognizing this trade receivable, it's an asset. Trade receivable is an asset. So every asset will be, if we are recognizing an asset in the financial statement, we are supposed to recognize, or we are supposed to satisfy the definition. So the definition say, asset should be recognized, or it has to be resulted from a past event. Yes. Trade receivable is resulted from a past event. What's the event? That is the sale made to customer A. Then it should be from a resource controlled by an entity. Yes, we can specify data A to settle on this date or another date or someplace else. That is controllability. Then on month 1, third most important point is resource embodying economic benefits is expected to be received to the entity. So on the month 1, when we are recognizing this asset, the company expects that this 100,000 will be received in future. Company expects that this 100,000 will be received in future. So if they expect that the 100,000 is receivable in future, that means they are expecting that economic benefits will be flown into the entity in future. So here, when you recognize this asset, the definition of asset is satisfied. Now we'll look at the second month. Second month, what has happened? Trade receivable, is it resulting from a past event? Yes. It is resulting from a past event. Because the sale was made in first month, the receivable has resulted in a past event. Second one, resource controlled by the entity. Yes, they can define as to when it is to be paid or not. Then third one, are we expecting that future economic benefits to be flown into the entity because of this trade receivable? Yes or no? Yes or no? No. Why? Why? Because at this point, we know that, we got to know that Mr. A has lost his job. Since Mr. A has lost his job, he will not be able to settle this 100,000. So we cannot, beyond this point, we cannot expect to receive these future economic benefits. We cannot expect to receive the future economic benefit. So if we cannot expect to receive the future economic benefits, what will happen? What will happen? Can we continue to recognize this as an asset? We cannot continue to recognize this as an asset because the conceptual framework or the definition of assets specifically states that if you are recognizing an asset, there should be future recoverability has to be certain. Now here, future recoverability is not there. Therefore, we cannot continue to recognize this as an asset. Then what happens? Then yes, we know that we have to de-recognize the asset, remove the asset. So how are we going to remove the asset? Remove the asset. So removal of asset means credit the trade receivables. Because you can see the reduction of an asset is having a credit impact. So removal of asset means reduction of an asset. So trade receivables reduction means it's a credit entry. So credit trade receivables, then where is the debit entry has to go? What is the debit entry? So originally we assumed that we are supposed to get an income. Originally we have recognized that sales, we are supposed to get an income. Actually, is this one of our income? No, it's not our income. So are we going to reverse the income? That is also not possible because at this point all the conditions that are required to be satisfied was satisfied. So sales cannot be recognized. Sales cannot be reversed. Sales amount cannot be reversed. Instead, non-recoverability of a trade receivable means what? It's an expense. It's a loss to the company. It's a loss to the company. So loss to the company means it is an expenditure to the company. So if it's an expenditure to the company, increase in an expenditure will have a debit impact. So on the second month, the double entry would be bad debts bad debts expenditure debit 100,000. Bad debts expenditure debit 100,000. Trade receivables, customer A will be credited 100,000. So the double entry for bad debts would be bad debts expenditure debit, trade receivable account credit. Bad debts expenditure debit, trade receivable credit. That is the double entry for bad debts. So are you clear on this one? Right? So here, by the time when we recognize the sale, we are recognizing the trade receivable and asset because we are certain that we will receive the money in future. Future economic benefits will flow into the entity. That condition is satisfied at the month 1. But on the second month, the condition related to future economic resources, embodying the economic resources, future economic resources will not be flown into the entity. That is certain on this point, so we need to de-recognize or remove the asset, so asset account is credited. And if we have a receivable and if we cannot recover that receivable, that's a loss to the entity. So loss amount we are charging as a expenditure. So increase in the expenditure debit, decrease in the asset credit. Increase in the expenditure debit, decrease in the asset credit. Next one, point number 10. Obtaining a bank loan. Obtaining a bank loan. So now what has happened is, company is going to obtain a new bank loan. Obtain a new bank loan. So obtaining a new bank loan, let's assume that we have received the cash for the loan. Now we go and open, we request the bank to provide us a loan, right? And the bank is going to give us a loan by way of cash. So we are receiving cash. Now what happens? What is the debit entry? So first we'll see, is there an increase to one of our assets? Yes. What is it? Our cash in hand is going to be increased. We have obtained a loan. Businesses cash in hand is going to be increased. So debit entry is cash in hand debit. Cash in hand debit. Where's the credit entry? Where's the credit entry? Is there a reduction in one of our assets by obtaining a loan? Not really. If there is a reduction in one of our expenses? No. Is there a reduction in, increase in equity? Bank loan is not an equity. Equity means something which is infused by the owner. Bank loan is not something infused by the owner, so there is no increase in equity. Is there an increase in income? Bank loan, is it an income to us? No. Sales are the normal income. Bank loan is not an income which has to be repaid in future. So what happens? Is there a liability? Yes, there is an increase in the liability. So bank loan liability will be credited. Cash in hand will be debited. Bank loan liability will be credited. Cash in hand debit, bank loan liability credited. Next one, example number 11, received house rent. That means we have given the property out on rent to someone and then we are receiving it, we are receiving the rent. Within brackets say in cash, Received the house rent in cash. Received the house rent in cash. What is the double entry? Is there an increase to one of our assets? Yes, we are going to get cash in. So debit, cash in hand. Is there a increase? Now we are looking at the credit side. So credit side, is there a decrease to one of our expenses? By receiving house rent? No. Is there an increase in the equity? No. Is there an increase in the income? Yes. So house rent income, credit, debit the cash in hand. Cash in hand debit, house rent income, credit. Cash in hand debit, house rent income, credit. Point number 12, paying bank loan interest, paying bank loan interest, paying bank loan interest. So earlier we looked at the loan amount, now we are looking at the loan interest. Loan interest means what? Is it an asset or expenditure? It's an expenditure to us. So increase in an expenditure will have a debit impact. So bank loan interest expenditure debit, and then credit where? Cash in hand. Our asset of cash in hand is going to be reduced. So we are crediting the cash in hand asset. So we are debiting the bank loan interest expenditure account, and we are crediting the cash in hand asset. We are crediting the cash in hand asset. Point number 13, settling a part of the bank loan. Now initially we have obtained the loan. Now what we are going to do is we are going to repay the loan, part of the loan, settling a part of the loan. So if we are settling a part of the loan, will it have an impact to our assets? Yes, our cash in hand is going to be reduced. So that's going to be a credit impact. By settling the loan, is there an impact to the expenses? No impact to the expenses. By that transaction, is there impact to the equity? No impact to the equity. By that transaction, is there an impact to the income? No income impact. So is there an impact to the liabilities? Yes. What will happen? Our liabilities towards the bank loan is going to be reduced. The liability towards the bank loan is going to be reduced. So that means asset account debit and the liability account, asset account credit, that is cash in hand, liability account debit, bank loan. So the debit entry we are writing first, that is the bank loan account will be get debited because it's going to reduce, and at the same time cash in hand, our asset is going to get reduced, that is going to be credited. So bank loan debit, cash in hand, credit. Bank loan debit, cash in hand, credit. Invest in the personal motor vehicle in the business. Now what happens? Here what they're saying is, owner has invested his personal motor vehicle into the business. Owner has invested his personal motor vehicle into the business. Personal motor vehicle into the business means what's going to happen? Is there an increase in the asset? Yes. The business will get an asset. Business will get an asset. Motor vehicle asset, debit. So what's going to be the credit impact? Owner introducing his personal motor vehicle means that is going to have an impact to the equity. It's like capital contribution by the owner. Capital contribution by the owner. So something which is owed back by the company to the owner, it is an equity component. So increase in equity will be a credit balance. Will have a credit impact. So debit the asset account motor vehicle, credit the equity account for the motor vehicle value. So the double entry is debit the motor vehicle expenditure account, credit the equity, owner's equity account. Okay. Next one. Drawings in goods. Drawings in goods. What do you mean by drawings? Drawings means owner is taking goods out of the business for his personal use. Owner is taking goods out of the business for his personal use. That is what we consider as the drawings. Drawings means owner is taking goods out of the business for his personal use. Drawings of goods. So what is the double entry? Double entry. So by drawing, will it have an impact? Drawing of goods, will it have an impact to our assets? Yes or no? Will it have an impact to assets? Yes, there is going to be an impact to assets. What is the asset? Inventory. Inventory. Those goods were in our inventory. So owner taking those goods out of the business means our inventory is going to reduce. Our inventory is going to reduce. So that is the credit entry. We'll see what is the debit entry. So if owner is taking goods out of the business means owner is taking back what? What he has invested in the business. It's the reversal entry. Now in the previous one, motor vehicle owner has invested into the business. But here owner is taking something back from the business. So it's going to be what? A reduction in the equity. A reduction in the equity component. So if there is a reduction in the equity, the entry would be debited. And then a reduction in the asset, reduction in inventory, the entry would be credited. So you can see now, when it comes to the withdrawing or drawings of goods from the business, debit the equity, credit the inventory. Debit the equity, credit the inventory. Debit equity, credit inventory. Next one, drawing cash. Again, same basis. Instead of inventory, the owner is drawing cash out of the business. Instead of the inventory, owner is drawing cash. So debit the equity, credit the cash in hand. Debit the equity, credit the cash in hand. Then we have the adjustment number 17, addition to the buildings. So buildings owned by the business, it's an asset to us. Addition to the buildings means, what has happened? Our business or the buildings owned by the business will increase. That means an increase in the asset. Increase in the asset means debit the building account. Debit the building account and credit what? How are we going to add something to the building? By paying through cash. So cash in hand, one of our other assets, will be reduced. So debit buildings, credit cash in hand. Debit buildings, credit cash in hand. Debit buildings account, credit cash in hand account. Next one, paying to creditors using owner's personal cash. Paying to creditors using owner's personal cash. Now we'll see how the double entry for this would be. Paying to creditors using owner's personal cash. If we look at the transaction, how it has happened, this is what has happened. Now there is the owner of the business. So here, owner has given cash to the business. This is business. This is the currency. This is cash. So owner is giving cash to the business. Then what happens is, business is paying that cash to the creditor. So that cash is going to be paid to the creditor. Owner is giving the cash to the business, and then business is going to settle it to the creditors. Now, here you can see paying to creditors using owner's personal cash. Now, if you look at this transaction can be divided into two. From here. This side is the first transaction. This side is the second transaction. What is the first transaction? First transaction is owner giving money to the business. Second transaction is paying the money to the creditor. So now we'll think of it as two different transactions and we'll see what is the double entry. So owner giving cash to the business means what? Debit will be equity, that is owner investing money. Equity, or we can say capital account of the owner is getting debited. What is the credit entry? Sorry. Sorry, what is the debit entry? Debit entry should be cash, that is business is going to have an increase in their cash. So cash in hand is going to be debited. Cash in hand is going to be debited. What is the credit entry? Credit entry, owner's equity or capital. Owner's equity or capital is going to be credited. That is the first entry. Owner introducing capital or introducing cash to the business. Second part of the transaction is business is paying cash to the creditor. Business is paying cash to the creditor. So if business is paying cash to the creditor, debit entry would be the liability of trade creditors will reduce. Trade creditors' liability will be reduced, that is debit. And at the same time, cash in hand of the business also will get reduced. Cash in hand also will get reduced. Cash in hand also will get reduced. So the second entry would be trade creditors debit, cash in hand credit. Cash in hand credit. Now can you see, now we have differentiated this or segregated this into two different transactions. Let's put some values to this one now. Put some values. Let's say we are talking about 10,000 rupees. LKR 10,000. So that LKR 10,000 they have paid it. So then we are going to put the numbers here. Cash in hand debit. So that means, let's say cash in hand. Let's look at the cash in hand statement. So this is going to be the cash in hand statement of the business. Cash in hand. Before this transaction, let's assume before this transaction they had 50,000 worth of balance. It's an assumption. Let's say the business had 50,000 worth of cash before this transaction. Now on the first transaction, what is happening is, owner is giving 10,000 to the company. So that means that it is going to increase. Owner's contribution 10,000. Owner's contribution 10,000. That means cash in hand increased. This entry. Cash in has increased. Second entry, on the second transaction, what has happened is, cash in hand decreased. So you can see less paid to creditors 10,000. Because those two transactions happened at the same time. Those two transactions happened at the same time. Receiving cash from the owner and settling the trade creditor happened at the same time. But for our purpose, accounting purpose, we have divided into two categories, two transactions. So now less 10,000. So you can see what happens. The balance remains as 50,000. Increase in 10,000 and decrease in 10,000. No impact. Same thing. Now let's say, it's like if I'm the business, if this is the cash they are going to introduce, I am getting this cash from this hand, and I am going to settle this cash from my other hand. I'm not going to keep anything. I don't have anything. Nothing is with me. So you can see there is no impact to the cash in hand. So in that type of a situation, we can combine these two. Now since these two transactions happen at the same time, right? These two transactions happen at the same time, without a time gap, we can combine these two transactions. We can combine these two transactions, and we can consider the double entry directly as trade creditors debit equity or owner's capital credit. Trade creditors debit equity or owner's capital credit. What has happened? We remove this cash in hand component because there is no impact to the cash in hand. Since there is no impact to the cash in hand, we remove the cash in hand component. So this entire transaction, we took it as one, and we recorded this double entry. We recorded the double entry. So likewise, keep in mind, when you pass double entries, when you do bookkeeping, when you do accounting, there is no hard and fast rule that this is the only method that you can account. No. There are alternative methods as well. There are alternative methods. Some may use different methods, whereas the others may use an alternative method. So the method that you use in the accounting, or the double entry that you pass in accounting, will be different from one person to other. But only thing is, keep in mind, whatever you do, the impact has to be same. Whether you like it or not, the impact has to be same. You cannot have a different impact because of your accounting treatment. The impact has to be same. One person might use this as two different transactions, and one person might say cash in hand debit 10,000 and equity credit 10,000. And at the same time, he might pass another entry, trade creditors debit 10,000 and cash in hand credit 10,000. Another person, by combining these two transactions, might say trade creditors debit 10,000, equity credit 10,000. So there is an alternative method of doing the recording the transaction. So keep in mind, these alternative methods of recording the transactions are also acceptable, right? So you can see that this is an alternative method to record these two transactions. But only thing is, keep in mind, here, these two transactions happen at the same time. That is why we could net off the cash in hand impact. That cash in hand statement you can see, we could net off the 10,000 because it happened at the same time. If it happened in 2 different months, we can't do it. We have to do it on 2 instances, right? Since it happened in the same time, we netted it off and we recorded this transaction. So keep in mind, always there could be alternative methods of doing the bookkeeping. There's no hard and fast rule that you must follow this or you must follow that. There's no hard and fast rule. But only thing is, your accounting treatment has to match with the principles laid down in the principles laid down in the accounting bookkeeping, right? It has to match with the bookkeeping principles. That is, If it's an increase in an asset, the entry has to be debit. If it's a decrease in an asset, the entry should be credited. If it's an increase in the expenditure, the entry should be debited. If it's a decrease in the expenditure, entry should be credited. If it's an increase in equity, entry should be credited. If it's a decrease in the equity, it should be debited. If it's an increase in the income, it should be credited. If it's an increase in the decrease in the income, it should be debited. If it's an increase in the liability, it should be credited. If it's a decrease in the liability, it should be credited. So don't try to remember these double entries. No point. Because different transactions will have different double entries, and the way that they are, way that the company is doing the transactions also could have an impact to the way that we record the transactions. So the amount and the way that we record and the accounts that we use to record the transaction will vary from one company to another. Will vary from one company to other. So we cannot, you should not remember all these transactions, but instead, what you need to know is you need to remember the principle of bookkeeping. So if you know the principle of bookkeeping, it will be easy for you to do any transaction. The principle of bookkeeping is this. Principle of bookkeeping is this. Increase, decrease, what is the double entry? And the other principle is always the debit entry has to be matched with the credit entry. Debit entry has to be matched with the credit entry. So if you follow these two principles, your bookkeeping is very easy. But if you try to remember this now, we have discussed about 18 examples. If you try to remember these double entries one by one and this type of transaction, this is the double entry, it's not going to be a good thing. Because the way that the examiner is going to give the question and the way that the transactions are happening in a business will change from time to time, and will change from one entry to another, and will change from one examiner to another, one instance to another. So the timing will be different, and the type of the transaction will be different, and the type of the account that is used for the transactions will be different. So if those are different, you cannot use the same journal entries. So keep in mind, remember the principle, understand the principle. With that principle, you should be able to record any type of a transaction, But if you try to remember the transactions, you are going to fail because it's not going to be a good thing. You will not be able to remember all the transactions that are happening in a company, right? All the transactions that are happening. Right, I think with that, we'll stop for a break, and after the break, we can discuss.